Welcome to another episode of Nolzur's Marvelous Tutorials with RealmSmith. We are here live currently on the PAX Unplugged 2019 show floor with all of these wonderful people. Hey everyone! And we're going to paint Minsc Boo today. I have with me here a very special guest, a good friend of RealmSmith. You go by Ink and Ignorance.
That's correct, yep.
On Instagram. We can talk all about that stuff in a little bit. But this is Corey who will be joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Nice surprise.
Yeah, it is a surprise. It was a bit of a last-minute addition, but I was hoping to get him in this weekend, actually, and you don't know that, but that was a bit of a secret for myself.
Thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome. Like I said, this is an extension of our weekly Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures tutorials with RealmSmith. We are in the Vallejo booth, so we want to thank Vallejo so much for hosting us today.
Yes.
It's been incredible all weekend, as well as WizKids, who provides and creates these incredible miniatures for us to paint on a regular basis, and they're just across the aisle here. So if you're enjoying what you're doing here, if the addiction is real, you can head over there and they'll take care of you, because a lot of the miniatures we painted this weekend, as well as a bunch of other incredible stuff, is over there, as well as their Warlock tiles actually that they're releasing, which is their new dungeon tile system. So
yeah.
very, very cool stuff. Apart from that, we're just going to get started. Now, Minsc Boo, for those of you that don't know, is a fighter, I believe,
Ranger.
and he's a ranger. Sorry, I say fighter. He's a ranger with a giant miniature space hamster, miniature giant space hamster that walks around. So you'll see he's holding him. It's a pretty small miniature, but don't let that fool you. There's a lot of work involved in this miniature. We're going to get through it today. What I am going to show you, actually, this image here, which isn't going to show up until I can't show it to you. One sec. It's going to be great, I promise. Anybody see my cursor over there?
Oh, there you go.
Nope. Ah! I can't do it. I was going to show you. Anyways, you'll see it on my... What's that? Is it there? I can't see it. It's fine. It's fine. Whatever.
We tried.
At D&D Live, I had the opportunity to be there. Actually, I was representing WizKids. If you guys saw anybody see the live streams from D&D Live this past year, back in June? Jim Zub, who's a famous comic book writer, played Minsc, and Matt Mercer played his hamster Boo, and the entire stream just did squeaks and like chitters, and it was pretty incredible. So it was an awesome experience. It was really fun. Anyway, so let's jump right in here. I do have some reference for color that I am going to look at myself. So to start off, we are going to go with a heavy violet base coat, and that is going to be on the cloak. Heavy violet is an extra opaque paint. The extra opaque paints from Vallejo basically work as a base coat, so they will go on in one coat. I do dilute all of my paint just with a little tiny bit of water. I do that on a regular basis just because it helps it to flow a bit better.
Yeah, I only just got to start to try these opaque ones this weekend when we did the...
They're good, right?
They're amazing.
Yeah, they're really great. The extra opaques go on really smooth, all in one coat. And so his cloak, what we're going to do is we're going to take the heavy violet, and we're just going to literally paint it all across the cloak. I'm using the larger brush here. You might want to use your number 2. This brush we probably won't use much, and some of you don't have it because they've gone missing. Oh, that's another housekeeping item I forgot to mention, and that is 10 of my brushes have gone missing yesterday alone, and so we're short on brushes because our full order of brushes didn't come from Spain this weekend from Vallejo. So just to make sure that you can take your miniatures with you. Of course, they're yours to keep, but the brushes need to stay here. If you could just make sure that you wash them and rinse them for the next folks. Don't have to worry too much at this point with getting that purple or violet onto other parts of the miniature. We're going to paint over those areas anyways.
And paint's only paint. You can always just fix it.
Exactly.
I know that's a big thing I get when friends and stuff talk to me, is they get frustrated and trying to stay between the lines, but it's just paint.
It's just paint. Can everybody hear Corey out there okay?
Hopefully. I'm not really practiced at projecting like Jason is, so if you can't hear me, let me know.
He's good? Yeah, okay, good. I'll give you a little bit more here.
Yeah, you probably want to give me a little extra boost.
As long as we don't get feedback, we're good.
So good.
So you want to make sure that you get the outside of the cloak, but you also want to make sure that you dig right into the back as well. If you don't get all of it, that's fine. It's a little difficult because the cloak is attached to the miniature. But as long as you can't see any glaring white spots, it's probably okay. Unless you have really picky characters, and if you want to use them as an NPC, that might cause some issues. I mean, the rule of thumb for me for D&D minis is that I paint them to a tabletop standard that is decent at least 2 feet away. Nobody's ever necessarily going to see them any closer than that unless you're entering any competitions or something like that. But, you know, I come from a wargaming background where, you know, you're using the same army almost every game that you play. When it comes to D&D, you know, how often is your party really going to face a dragon or even a beholder for that matter? And so I take as much time as I need to make it look decent enough, but then I want to move on to the next one because there are so many minis in the line that I want to have on the table, right? 9
times out of 10 when you're in a D&D game and everything's so intense and somebody throws a big dragon in front of you, you're too into the battle anyways to really pay attention to what's going on with that mini.
Totally.
But I know that's something you've always preached, and I completely agree. It's you can pull off something in a couple hours that everybody's happy with, seeing at a table. It's
absolutely.
It enhances that experience that much more.
Yeah, a lot of our all of our classes, all of our shows are 2 hours long on the D&D Twitch. Every episode, but we do multiple episodes for minis that I thought should be more kind of showcase miniatures. One of those being the Frost Giant, who
just gonna say,
who is modeled after Harshnag from Storm King's Thunder, and he's a regular reoccurring NPC. So I wanted to make sure that he got a little bit more love than the others do. So
yeah, and I think he's back in the case, the display case back there.
He is back, yeah. So every miniature that we've painted on the show is back in the display case at the back of our booth there.
It's a fantastically done mini.
Thanks, buddy.
Check it out.
Thank you.
I actually watched that stream when you guys were doing that.
Oh, really? Live?
Yeah, a couple of the pieces, because it was in 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, it was three episodes. Yeah.
I think I caught the first 2 pretty good chunks of them. And,
that's great. Right on. So Corey, tell us a bit about what you do and who you are. And
so I go by Ink and Ignorance, mostly on Instagram. I do exactly what we do here. I paint miniatures. I started years ago, starting with war games, much like Jason, with Warhammer, doing 40K, but now I've been doing mostly D&D stuff. And one of my big things was the beholder. I ran off of what you did on your tutorial. And
and that's how kind of we connected, right?
That's how we connected, finding out we only live a few hours apart.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Where are you again? London?
Kincardine.
Kincardine, that's right.
So yeah, I'm just west of Toronto. The same place as Kelly is from the Dungeon Dudes.
That's right, yeah. All right, so that heavy violet for me is done here. You want to, it's going to be, the paint will rub off the miniature, so if you have to go back and touch it up, fine. But I wanted to make sure we got that heavy violet in the back of the cloak because we don't want to try and jab that back there after we've painted some of the areas. A common rule of thumb for me is paint your minis from the inside out. So anything that's the deepest detail, you do first so that you don't mess it up later, or the outer details when you're trying to get in there later, if that makes sense. All right. Everybody done that? Heavy violet, base coat, 50% done, 75% done. Okay, I'll give it a couple more seconds here.
Yeah, those opaque paints are unreal.
Right?
So good. I'm gonna have to pick up a few before I leave.
Yeah, they're really great.
So, do you airbrush for basing at all?
Larger minis, not for basing as much, but more for like mid-tone highlights. So I'll do like, if I do a dragon, I'll just do loose highlights on it and shadows with an airbrush, or OSL effects or like special effects and things like that.
Yeah, like your moon and your fire from the beholder. I got so far on my beholder, loved how it looked, thought about risking it. I just couldn't do it.
I know.
It was not gonna happen.
And that's the thing, right? Sometimes you gotta decide if it's worth the risk of messing up the paint job that you did for that sake, right?
Yeah, I finally got a look at it up there, and it turned out great. And
thanks, man.
I picked up a couple new beholders this weekend, so I may.
Did you?
I may
Nice.
go back and tackle it.
Nice. We're painting one this afternoon, actually.
Yeah, I saw that.
With the Sirenscape folks.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Come by and say hi.
All right. We're gonna move on to Somber Gray. Somber Gray is just a regular layer paint from the Game Color line. It's not quite as thick as the extra opaque, but most of the Vallejo colors have a fairly decent amount of pigment, and they cover fairly well. So we're gonna take Somber Gray, and we're gonna paint his pants. And we're gonna paint his shoes. So he's got greaves on, which is armor around his shins. But basically I'm gonna paint up here on his pants. Somber gray. And then his shoes under that. Again, if you get it on any of the primed areas, that's fine. The beauty of WizKids minis is they all come pre-primed and assembled, so right out of the box, you just pop them out and they're ready to go.
And the quality right out of the box I've always found is pretty solid. The
Yeah, it's pretty great,
really
right?
Clean.
Yep. Yeah.
For such an affordable mini, they're fantastic.
Crazy affordable mini.
And if you go across the way here to this, while you're at PAX here, I feel like they're a lot cheaper. They've been priced really well. I've gotten a bunch this weekend.
They're super affordable here at the show.
So I know a few of my friends I've been with that are here painting with us now. They've got the bug and went and picked up a few already.
Nice. So yeah, like I said, shoes and pants in this color.
So you were saying you're into wargaming.
Yeah.
So what did you play?
40K.
Okay. So
and Age of Sigmar.
Okay. See, I'm pre that stuff, so.
I actually still play both. Every couple months.
What armies?
What's that?
What armies?
Black Templars, Grey Knights for 40K, and Sigmarines for Age of Sigmar, yeah. Yeah, Stormcast Eternals.
Right on.
For those that aren't.
Is there a big scene up there at Oakville for that stuff?
There's, I don't know. I have buddies who I've just always played with. I don't really go to stores and play or anything like that. So I drive out to London once every couple months and play.
Go to the mall.
Dude, if you're west of Toronto, you should come sometime.
Well, yeah, actually, like London's only a couple hours away.
Yeah, man, a couple hours for me too. Yeah, let's do it.
We could definitely meet up there.
That'd be fun.
Actually, that's my go-to spot when I need to get some more Citadels or.
Oh, really?
That's Poopah here, isn't it?
What? Citadel? Oh no, they make great paints.
No,
Alex is the first person to say that Citadel makes great paint. But it's not in dropper bottles.
Okay, no, I agree. The dropper bottles are clutch. They're awesome. No, I usually go out there every couple months at least. So
really, eh?
Let
Cool.
me know.
Cool, yeah, for sure.
Sister lives there, so I have a reason to
Oh, cool. Right on.
That's what I mean. Like, we're connected closer than we realize. We never get to
I know, it's funny.
To meet.
I know, it's like the Dungeon dudes. It's like literally they live like 20 minutes from me, but we have to travel to it's Philadelphia and Origins in order to hang.
Well, I grew up with Kelly.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw Kelly, I was running a game for him when he came home for Christmas 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I had to come here to see him.
I know, it's nuts.
That's been nice to hang out and see everybody.
Yeah, for sure. All right, how many people have started the pants and the shoes? Okay. Give it a couple more minutes here.
Touch up. I'm usually not a speed painter, so working on this stuff with you has actually been really helpful.
Good, man. Good.
Usually grabbing my 00s and really fine stuff.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, so pants and shoes. If you get it on the greaves, that's fine. We can paint over them after,
Yeah,
but...
I did them both just because it keeps a consistent base.
Yeah, and I actually like to paint over the seam of areas just because then you're sure not to get lines of primer in between.
Yeah.
You close in those gaps a little bit better.
And that's exactly what I did. That's a habit of mine.
Yeah, it's a good habit. What do I got here? I don't even know what I have.
I'm actually stoked with this. I actually having a lot of opportunity to play with a lot of Vallejo stuff.
Yeah,
I had a few when I did the Beholder.
Yeah,
I had your Elfic Flesh, and I used that beautiful ink I use on the gums. And
yep.
I use their primers all the time. They're amazing primers to airbrush.
Yeah. Little story about Vallejo. They started in the 60s. Started their company in New Jersey. Actually, they moved from Spain to New Jersey. Started the company there and then moved back to Spain when they realized the climate in Spain was a bit better than New Jersey's. And they've been running the company ever since, and it's still family run. So Alex Vallejo is the CEO, who is the son of Boris Vallejo, who recently passed actually. Boris is a famous painter, and they just continued the family tradition of, and it's so good and so awesome and so great. Such a great story. Do we not have a wash? We don't have a black wash here?
I don't think so. No, you just got the flesh wash.
That's not good. Okay.
I know they had a flesh tone. I think it was this one they were short on. So they passed it around to everybody. But
okay. Adam, I just need a black wash when we can get one. Thanks. All right. Next, we're going to take leather brown. And we're going to base coat the leather armor that he has on. It's that kind of scale armor. And the chest area is like a plate, so we're going to make that metal later. But basically the midriff here, or the middle of the torso section,
everything with that texture, right? Is what you're saying?
Yeah. So everything with that kind of scaly texture is going to get this leather brown undercoat, or base coat, I should say. It's not an undercoat. And you can go right to the edge with it. Make sure also that you get the bottom edges where it meets the pants. Obviously, you want to be careful to not overshoot that, but if you do, it's not a big deal because we're just base coating at this point. Easy to go back and touch that up. One thing I've noticed since I started using Vallejo paints is that the paint actually stays wet in the palette longer than other paints I've used, which is great because by the time you're almost done a mini, if you mess something up, you can come back and it's still usable on the palette.
You're right. I'm just noticing that myself. That's actually really, really true.
Yeah.
I have a habit of using wet palettes a lot, and they can be frustrating. So.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I haven't used a lot of wet palettes actually.
They're handy. They're a great way to save paints.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't sit down and do a lot of painting and you end up like wasting stuff or drying or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just a great way to stretch out those paints. I know I've got
so true
dots that I've had in my palette for literally weeks, and I keep going back and using them because you're just using them for small highlights or eyes.
Yep. And that's why the dropper bottles are so great too, because you're not wasting the paint on the brush while you transfer it. Thanks, buddy. And is there enough for everybody?
Oh, there's going to be a black wash?
No, nobody has black wash. Oh. Nobody has black wash out there, right?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
I think we're good. I appreciate you having me up here, man.
No problem, dude.
It's a blast.
No worries. I'm actually going to go ahead and base coat the belt as well. Right across the way, we're going to use different washes to differentiate it from the rest of the armor. And it's the same way I do the show. I like to just choose colors and then solve those problems on air, just to give you kind of an idea of the thought process behind what we do and why we do it, and how to, you know, backtrack or fix things that may have not gone the way that we expected.
Yeah, and it's like I said earlier, it's just paint.
Yep. Happy mistakes.
Happy mistakes. I know I've gone ways where I've tried 2, 3, 4 different styles on a mini and it didn't work, and
yep.
to the point where, you know, there's even points where if it's too far, you can strip the paint and start over. And
yep.
You have to do that very often?
Strip paint?
Yeah.
No, I can't keep attention on something long enough to worry about it enough, I guess. I'm on to the next one constantly. It's always on to the next one.
Mine tends to be all the D&D minis from friends that they attempt, and then they see what I do and go, just fix it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, right? Yeah, yeah. How many people are done that brown base coat? Right on.
Crushing it.
No, not the scabbard yet. We're going to use charred brown for the scabbard.
I feel terrible.
So yeah, so that's what it should look like. Basically, leather, armor, and the belts. I left the scabbard still primed, but that's more or less how it should look.
Beauty. Did you hit the bags and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, I just did it all. I'll go back in there and differentiate some stuff after.
These brushes are nice too, actually. This is the first time
they
I
are.
had a chance to.
And they've been used all weekend too, so
yeah, they're holding up really well.
Yeah.
Really.
All right.
There we go.
Next, we're going to use rosy flesh. Now, rosy flesh is obviously going to go on all the fleshy parts. That's his arms and his head. I'm using my zero brush for that, just because it's a smaller area. Typically, I wouldn't for a base coat.
It's taking every part of me not to lick these brushes every time.
They're fairly small. You're a brush licker, right?
I am a brush licker.
I've never been.
I don't. It's a weird habit, and I know a lot of painters that do.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it starts or where it stems from.
Yeah.
It just
ease of use, I guess, or speed.
It just starts happening. You don't even know it.
Yeah.
It's funny how many people that I've been around here saying, like, I'm saying, oh, I'm a mini painter and this and this, and one of their first questions is, are you a brush licker?
The first question is what?
Are you a brush licker?
Oh, really? Really?
I've got it a few times.
Actually, I don't know if I've ever gotten that question. That's funny.
I've had it a couple times.
Maybe you just look like a brush licker.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know what it is.
They're like, oh, you look like... That's funny. So I'm doing the arms, like I said, right up to the shoulders. And then the head as well. Now, if you dilute your paints a little bit, as I mentioned before, they're going to flow a little bit easier. It's also going to allow less texture from the paint and the brush on the surface. It's going to go on a lot smoother, which you want for a skin base.
If you have any of that purple or anything on the arms, it might show through, but I imagine our inks will all cover that up too.
Yeah, you may have to do a couple coats of this rosy flesh. It's not a extra opaque paint, so it's not going to cover as well as those would. And don't worry if you get a little bit on Boo, that's okay. He doesn't mind.
This is a really nice mini.
What's that?
This is a really nice mini.
Yeah, it is a nice mini.
Sorry, I'm not very practiced at projecting. I'll get there.
Oh, it's all good. As long as they can hear you out there.
You guys still hear me?
Yeah. I am getting a little bit of this on the cloak, but again, we're just base coating at this point, so I can just go back with that heavy violet, which is still fairly usable on my palette, even though it's really dry in here, and just touch it up afterwards.
I know I'm definitely going to have to.
Yeah. Ethan.
There we go. If you do have to go back to that purple, just throw a bit of water in there. It'll break up and you can get back into that fresh paint.
We brought our tavern dog Bruno with us. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta meet Bruno.
So he's at the hotel. So we just have to. Ethan needs to go back and take care of him.
That's awesome.
Make sure he's all right. He's pretty great.
Yes, if you haven't seen Bruno, watch on Sundays, right?
Yes, Sundays and Mondays. Yeah, yeah.
So I know you've had Bruno on your
featured,
painting stream.
Yeah, yeah, and his farts and his snoring are often highlighted on our streams.
Yeah. They've been referred to as auto crits.
Yes, yes, they have. He has no shame.
It's a good thing he's awful cute, though.
He is awful cute. And he's a good boy, too, for the most part.
That's good.
All right, so that's how that should look. His head and his arms are base coated. Want to make sure you get all the little nooks and crannies there. But the wash is fairly forgiving that way. I'm going to go back now into the heavy violet and just touch up some of that cloak that I overbrushed on.
Do the hands I forgot.
Oh yeah, I'm constantly going back to areas that I forget to do.
Oh yeah, never fails. You think you have every piece.
Yeah, no.
So what's your next mini you're painting on Sundays?
Yeah, so the schedule this week, so we're, speaking of our live streams, we're stopping, or we finished our last season of Order of Dragon's Bane, and we are now moving into a Curse of Strahd campaign, which starts January 6th on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. You guys can check that out. And so next week we're painting Vampire Hunters.
Oh, right on.
From WizKids, and then the week after that we're painting Strahd, the Vampire. We're in time for Christmas. So that'll be fun. Yeah, so festive. And then this will probably end up airing, actually, this episode after that. So the week of Christmas or whatever that is. So
doing all the family stuff.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so how many people have done the skin? Yeah, okay. So we're going to move on to gunmetal. Gunmetal is, again, another metallic paint from Vallejo. The metallics have a lot of pigment in them, so they come out fairly thick, which again it's easier to, you can thin paint, you can't necessarily thicken it. So I like that I have that option. I'm going to load my brush with it, and I'm going to paint the chest plate below the cloak there. I'm going to paint the greaves, so those armor pieces around his shins, and I'm going to paint his sword and his bracers as well around his wrists.
These are really nice metallic paints.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, I love Family Day.
Family Day?
At the show. Like Sundays are usually Family Day, people bring their kids.
Oh yeah.
I just love it.
This is my first convention, so this is all...
Is it really?
Yeah, well I went to Fan Expo back in Toronto.
Yeah, sure.
So I actually went with the Dungeon Dudes and
Jill
nice. Over here, and
nice.
that's where I met her.
Hi Jill.
But yeah, for like traveling and seeing something that's substantial, this is my my first major one, and it's been something else.
It is, right? It's quite the thing to take in at first. A lot of people.
A lot of people.
And this is a mid-size con.
So what's the biggest convention you've been to? If you...
San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, see, I'm hoping to hit that next year, maybe.
Yeah, it was crazy. Biggest gaming con. Well, that's a good question. I haven't been to Gen Con yet. That is this year. I think we're doing this on a smaller scale at Gen Con this year.
Right on.
Origins is smaller than this.
I've heard Origins is a great time.
But it's awesome. I think this is probably the biggest con, tabletop gaming con I've done, I think.
So I know you guys were streaming from Origins when you guys were there.
Yep. Yeah, we've done Origins 2 years in a row. And now PAX 2 years in a row.
Origins is definitely one I'm thinking about going to next year.
Origins is awesome.
I heard there was word of renting an RV with the Dungeon Dudes.
We talked about that, yeah. I would love to rent a tour bus.
Right, just all of us.
We should do that next time. I'm totally down.
Yeah, 100%.
Rent a big tour bus and just load it with everything we need and head down.
We'll all just road trip it.
Yeah. Everyone drive 1 hour. And, oh, we can't drive. I guess we'd have to get a driver, right? If you
yeah,
get a tour bus, hire a driver. So. Although I think my dad has his, like, that'd be great. Just, like, do it up. It'd be so fun.
Yeah, it'd be a blast.
Because you don't need a special license to drive an RV, do you?
No, I don't believe so.
So that'd be good. Anyways, we need to do something like that for sure.
Definitely. And I definitely got to come out there and play a game with you guys.
Yeah, you do.
So I joined in on the one shot you guys were running today there on Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
And Friday? Yesterday. And it was an absolute blast.
Was it fun at the back of the booth there with Brandon?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Got to experience your table.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was a really well done job.
A little bit of the adventure boxes.
I heard the plans may be coming up for the table.
Yes, they are. So I will. I've had the footage for that table since I built it. I just haven't had the time to edit that video. So the plan is to edit the how to build that table at the back. The table at the back of the booth I built last year for our live streams in our studio, and the idea was to upload the tutorial to YouTube so you guys could all kind of follow along if you want to build your own table, what it would take. It wasn't all that hard, frankly, and it didn't take all that long. So that'd be a cool tutorial, I think, to...
Yeah, it turned out great. Like, I've seen it on stream lots of times. So it was nice to actually check it out. And I've been looking to do something similar myself, so knowing that you're going to put the plans up.
Yeah, I got to do that real soon. Maybe while we're off live streams for the next couple weeks, maybe I'll take some time and get that up.
There you go.
Okay, so for those of you that are still doing that, so I did the greaves, which are the metal part across his shin and calf, his bracers around his wrists, the chest plate on his chest, and finally I'm going to do his sword and the top of his scabbard. So the top of his scabbard will have like a metal kind of band around it. I'm just going to paint that quick.
Often found metallic paints like this don't coat very well, but this is
it's got really good pigment. And then the sword, yeah, I mean I'm base coating this in one pass. Call Tim. Yeah. The scabbard is gonna, so the top of the scabbard is gonna be gunmetal, but the scabbard itself we're gonna paint later. Is there, I don't know if there's delineation at the bottom of the scabbard here for metal at the bottom, I don't know. I am gonna paint a little bit of metal at the bottom of the scabbard. I imagine there would be some sort of safety base there. I'm just going to paint that in anyways. And then, of course, the handle, the hilt of his sword, and the crossguard.
Things you notice when you're so far in, all the little pieces you miss.
Oh, I know.
Oh.
I always see, like, I'm almost done my mini. I'm like, how did I miss, like, his whole arm not primed or something like that?
I'm glad it's not just me.
It's crazy. No, it happens to all of us. And I just got gunmetal on the back of his head. If you do make a mistake and kind of get paint on an area, just using your finger to wipe it off, that's what I do, if it's still fairly wet. If not, you can use a brush that is dry or doesn't have paint on it to wipe it off as well. Okay, so that's how the metal area should look. That's almost completely base coated. And finally, we're going to go to charred brown. Do we have charred brown? I thought we had. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I think it's there.
Charred brown is one of my favorite colors in the Vallejo line. It's fine.
Oh,
Yes.
it's yours now.
Oh, it's in, I left it in the. Shouldn't have doing that, but. All right, and a little charred brown for the scabbard here. And that's going to be on the scabbard. Are we missing a color? No, we're good. Now getting the inside angle of the scabbard's a little tricky. Got to put your brush in through behind the cloak, but there we go.
There's a lot of minis you paint, you feel like you wish you had a brush that bent.
Yeah, bend around corners, yeah. Yeah, remove the cloak, exactly. I'm also going to paint this little bag on his left hip as well. Like this whole area here, I'm going to do charred brown just to differentiate it a bit. As well as the little strap that holds it to him. I'm going to do that as well. Imagine that's all kind of one separate piece that he puts on. I'm pretty sure Minsc Boo first showed up in the Baldur's Gate video game, didn't they?
They did, yeah. That's actually one of the first. Well, that's probably my first experience with Dungeons and Dragons was that video game.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the case with a lot of people.
That's part of the
I
reason
did
why
play it a
wanted-
bit.
Part of the reason I wanted to paint this mini was they were two of my favorite characters in that game. So
Oh, that's great.
This was fun to be able to join in on.
They're definitely a beloved character in the universe. And that's how that should look. So we have the scabbard is charred brown, as well as the little bag on his hip and the strap. Just gonna let that dry for a second, and then we're gonna move on to washes.
Boo? Probably end up just washing him. If you hit Boo with the skin tone though, he'd be alright. Oh God, yeah. So I guess, I don't know, well, I'll tell you more about my channel. So like I said, I go by Ink and Ignorance on Instagram. How Jason and I met is, I actually, if you go on and follow his Beholder series, that's what I did to get started on my WizKids Beholder Mini. Used his as some guidance. Took me a lot longer than the 2 hours that the next session is going to take, just to being, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And Jason and I met that way. Tagged his page, and we started chatting and found out that he lived not 2 hours from me, because we're both Canadians from Ontario. Just I heard, I don't know who it was coming from, it was my group or who. So, and then yesterday, like I said, he did a session with the Dungeon Dudes there, and I'm from the same hometown as Kelly, so that's how I got started into D&D, is Kelly from the Dungeon Dudes is my DM grandfather. He taught me and got into painting D&D minis, and that's where I'm at. So yeah, come and give me a follow over there, and if you have any questions about miniature painting, if you guys get into this, feel free to find me on Twitter or Instagram and throw me a message, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to use some black wash. Now, again, the black washes, for those of you that are new to painting, washes are intended to add shadow and depth to your miniature. They call it liquid talent, or talent in a bottle, because it takes very little effort to get a really awesome result. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to take a little bit, you're going to load your brush. I dilute this a bit because the pigment level in Vallejo washes is actually quite high, which is great for certain things, not so great for like less ideal for others, so you just dilute it. It's easier to dilute a paint than it is obviously to thicken it up. So we're going to take that wash and we're going to apply it to the pants, all the metal parts, and the purple cloak as well. Now this is going to darken those areas fairly significantly, but again, if you add a little bit of water and dilute it a bit, it's not going to darken it quite as much. But basically what it does is you move it around the miniature, it's going to seep into all the recesses and then add shadow to that area, like that.
The pants?
On the pants, the somber gray areas, on all of the metal areas, and the purple. You're welcome.
Sometimes you feel like you're putting too much on. I know I always tend to fall short, but you kind of have to trust the paint and trust the ink, and then
it looks like a lot less when it's finally dry, and then you can always build up the color afterwards on top of it.
Yep.
I'm actually also going to add the wash to the charred brown areas as well.
You're hitting the armor with a different ink, you said? The leathers?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't decided what yet, but yeah. The chest piece as well, yep. Anything that's metal.
So what I just did was I overlapped the brown leather with the ink. So a trick I use is if I hit the ink somewhere else, is I'll dilute it really quickly.
Yep.
Dry the brush and then pull it into the brush, and it'll pull all that ink out.
It'll sop it up, yeah, exactly. I'm actually going to test a little flesh wash on this armor to see if it's going to look, how it's going to look, because we don't have the sepia wash that we typically use with us right now. And then if that doesn't work, then I might do a mix of black and flesh. I like to kind of solve those problems with what I have at the table rather than trying to just grab more paint, because I know people are limited, they have limited stock of paint, and we like to keep the paint count fairly low for these. Just so people know that you don't need a whole collection of paint to get something done.
White and black are your two best friends.
Yeah.
You can kind of massage any color to get something fairly close if you, if you work with it.
So we literally just rub this all over the cloak?
Yep, yep.
Did you wash the cloak?
What's that?
You wash the cloak?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just going to add some dimension to the cloak. It's going to put some shadows in those inside folds.
washes are really nice.
Yeah, they are nice. That's what we're gonna do.
I'm really enjoying the opportunity to paint with these Vallejos.
Good. Okay, so what I'm gonna do for the brown armor is I'm actually gonna use a mix, about 50-50 mix of the flesh wash and the black wash. And that's getting me the consistency of dark brown that I'm looking for the area. So I'm gonna wash basically all of the armor and the belts that sit on the front of his suit there. It's gonna look like that.
There we go.
You have a sepia wash, not a flesh wash. Weird. You have flesh? Do you have sepia as well? Oh, we didn't get sepia up here.
It skipped you.
What's that? Yes, please. Yeah, you can just.
Thank you.
We're insured. Well, I would have used sepia wash on the armor for sure. So
I will.
If you folks have sepia wash, use that on the armor. Here, I'll just put a dab on it here, and then we can give it back. There you go. Toss that back.
Good grab.
Yeah. So you want to use if you have the sepia wash at the table, go ahead and add the sepia wash to the armor, and that's gonna really bring that out. How many people are caught up so far doing sepia wash on the armor right now? How many people are on the step just before that? Okay, we'll give it a bit of time here. I'm actually gonna go check out what people are doing here and just head to the back of the booth for a sec if you wanna chat.
So how many people I missed? How many people is this your first mini? What do you think so far? It becomes zen at some point, I swear, I promise. For a first mini, I can promise you this is something that's quite intense. It's like a lot smaller and stuff. So if you look at like something like this that Jason has that they did this morning, bigger minis are they look more intense, they look like they're a lot of work. You got it, yeah, it's a lot of fast work and a lot of technique that makes that pull off. So these smaller minis are way more intense and more intricate that take a lot more time. So, but to pull off something like this in 2 hours, I can say is great for first timers. It's a good experience. And don't forget, like I know I'm going back on some of my skin tones and stuff where the paint's getting a little bit stiff, but you just throw a little water in that, brings it back to life. And the one spot, I don't know about you guys, but I know for me, is I keep holding onto the top of his head, so you might find that he's losing some paint up there, so you can always go back and touch that up. So what's been the favorite part of everybody's conventions so far? Everything? Hey, I know you're hooked. We're going to find you in a mini after. I know I've picked up a couple beholders. I picked up a wyvern from WizKids. I just picked up one of the Kraken spawns. So if you go across the way, if you do have interest, I can promise you it's a good place to get them because they are really affordable here and cheaper than I've seen before. So. Any questions from anybody out there while you got your heads down, or everyone's looking good?
Looking great.
How am I doing?
It's looking great out there, guys.
Am I holding my own or what?
It's great, man. You're doing awesome. Problem.
Slightly nerve-wracking.
Ah, it's all good. You're fine. Charismatic young chap. All right, so I'm adding that wash to the purple cloak now. You guys have probably all already done that. That black wash.
The other thing with washes, I know that what I'm doing right now is I did the full base just to kind of darkens everything, but
yeah.
If you find some of those heavy lines aren't popping, you can just load up the end of your brush and just drop the ink basically right into those creases and let it pull it out of the brush.
Yeah.
Be careful that these inks are thick.
Okay. All right, so that's looking good. I'm going to add a little bit more sepia wash onto that armor so that texture comes through. It's not quite coming through as much as it should for me.
Good call.
But I'm not actually going to add it to the belt so that the belt's still a little lighter. Okay, then we're going to add a flesh wash to the skin. Makes sense. And this is going to bring out all the detail on the skin. You can see his facial expression now. That flesh wash is going to seep into the eye sockets and around the mouth. With the flesh wash, you may have to go fairly heavy on it to get the effect that you want, but should work.
This one takes a little extra to get that pop.
Yeah, it does. The flesh wash has a little less pigment on it. I think it's intended to be a bit softer.
So I'm just loading up the tip of my brush really heavy with it and just letting the mini pull it from the brush.
Yep.
And like for example, like the hands, you can get if you kind of brush that ink against the grain, you'll see how it pulls off the brush.
Yep.
And it'll hold those lines.
Totally. Forgot to clean up some of the arm here from the purple earlier. Go in there and kind of...
Yeah, I got into that cleanup there when you were taking your walk.
Yeah. And that's what that should look like with the wash on it. You can see how you can see the face and some of the definition in the arms.
It's another nice opportunity that if you've missed some of the primer spots, like up in the top of the creases by the cloak, the wash is going to clean that up with the white base behind it.
Yeah, it's true.
Can confirm, because that's what I'm doing.
Nice. Okay. Just gonna let those washes dry just for a sec. Wash is still a little wet on my cloak, so I'm going to wait on that a little bit. But you know what? The metal's actually all dry, so I'm going to go ahead. We're not going to use the large dry brush for this, just because it's a little too big. I'm going to use my number 2 for this. But I'm actually going to dry brush some silver onto the metal areas.
What are you looking for? Silver?
Silver, thank you.
There you go, my friend.
Again, silver is another metallic color from Vallejo. And a dry brush, the way a dry brush works is you're going to load your brush with some paint, and then you're going to wipe most of it off onto a paper towel. Sounds counterintuitive, but bottom line is you want to be depositing the dry residue left on your brush onto the highest detail of an area. An example of that is, for example, I have gunmetal here on the greaves. I'm going to go against the texture with this silver, and it's just going to pick up the highest detail, leaving the wash in the recesses, and then you're going to get this really cool texture. So load it up, wipe most of it off on a paper towel, and then lightly brush it against the grain on the texture that you're intending to highlight. Right now, like I said, it's the metal. I'm going to do this on the chest piece as well, making sure to be careful not to get it on the cloak.
I know Monty yesterday when he was with you had a really, really good thing regarding dry brushing was you shouldn't see the paint show up until about the 4th or 5th stroke.
Yeah, you're not done until the 4th or 5th, exactly.
Yeah, so it's a really subtle and slow build of the paint. And I know I personally will take a few brushes on my thumb just to try and get an idea of how much is loaded. Yep.
I also start with the areas that you want to be the brightest, because the most paint is going to be on your brush at first. And so start at the peaks where a lot more light would maybe hit that area, and then work from there.
This is a nice silver paint, makes that edge pop really clean.
Okay.
How's yours looking?
It's getting there, slowly but surely.
That's why it's
With
yours.
some
This
further.
is why it's your show and not mine.
No, you're doing great. It looks good. Looks great. I'm going to go ahead and base coat the giant miniature space hamster. We're going to go leather brown on that. I'm going to use my zero brush because it's a small little hamster. It's a mean hamster, but it's small.
Tiny but mighty.
That's right.
Though still dry brushing, if you find your brush is a little too wet, give it a good clean and just pinch it between some paper towel and give it a good squeeze and get all that water out.
Good call.
So I know sometimes it can get damp and you get a nice streak across, and it's not exactly what you're looking for. It can be a bit frustrating.
And there we go. So that hamster is now base coated. And then while we still have leather brown kind of out, I'm actually going to use my larger dry brush on this and just be very careful. Just because the bristles on the dry brush are a lot more rigid than the other brushes are, so it's going to dry brush better. Again, I'm going to load my brush a little bit. I'm going to wipe most of it off on a paper towel. And then I'm going to dry brush the leather armor. And when I do that, again, you're going to see that it's going to pick up all of the little scales on that armor. You want your brush very dry. You want barely any paint on that when you do this. I'm also going to dry brush over the scabbard and the little, anything we painted charred brown, because that's also going to highlight that and bring it all together. And it should look like that.
Leather brown, you said?
Leather brown, yeah.
And I don't know about you, Jason, but like, when I'm dry brushing, I load up my brush slightly different. It's not so much trying to pull it right up as high you can. I basically just dab it into the tip just a little bit, because that's the only part of the brush you're using.
Yeah, and nothing ruins or brushes more than loading paint right up to the ferrule.
Yep.
This is called the ferrule, this metal part. So you want to load your brush almost halfway up for the most part. When you're beginning, I know it's a little more difficult to do that, but that's what you want to do, because if you get paint into this, it'll start to rust. And long-term wise, it's not gonna do very well for your brushes. So
yeah, if you take care of your brushes, they will take care of you. They can last a long time.
Can you say that last color you used again? Do what you just did.
Leather brown?
Yeah, leather brown.
Yeah, it is leather brown, yeah. How many people are keeping up so far? Okay, how many people are 1 or 2 steps behind? Okay, give it a couple minutes.
Learned a lot speed painting from you this weekend.
That's good. I'm trying to find the...
Mostly it's to try and push back my perfectionism.
Yeah, right? I know, it's hard. It's hard, right?
It's not easy. Oh, this is coming along great.
Yeah.
And what do we got?
Okay. All right, next we're going to take hexed lichen, which is a lighter purple color. Still stressed back there? Sorry. I know we moved quickly through this, folks. I apologize. And we're going to load it up on our larger dry brush. And we're actually going to use that lighter color purple to dry brush across the cloak. Again, you're going to go against the grain, and this is going to highlight on all the highest areas, and it's really going to make that cloak look cool. That's more or less how it should look right there. Careful you don't dry brush the rest of the surrounding areas.
Purple? Which one are you using? You're using hex?
Hexed lichen, yeah. Yeah.
I know you're going to put this online later, so if you don't get too caught up, I know you tend to walk around and help out after,
yeah,
and I will
totally
gladly do the same. And
yeah,
this will be online later.
Yeah.
So those lots of opportunity to catch up.
And if you look on the back of the blister pack that he came on, he's got a purple circle on the left side of his breastplate there. I've just roughed that in using that hexed lichen. It's hard to see on the miniature, but it's there.
Yeah,
so I just added that in.
Your detail, fine line, eyes and stuff. I don't have.
Oh, we'll get there today.
Oh, I know, and I'm terrified. You've got that nailed down.
He's also got a cool design on his head that we need to get in there. It's like a spiral kind of design.
Yeah, he's got his tattoo there or whatever.
Yeah. It's like a weird tattoo thing.
There you go.
And you can see it on the back of the package, I think. You can only see part of it.
Yeah.
I'll have to show you folks on camera what it looks like, and then you can look it up reference-wise if you don't want to do it now. But bottom line is it kind of, let's see here. This is going to be your zero brush. Trying to get a good shot of that side of it. So it goes down, it goes across his head like this. Across the center of his head, and I can walk my miniature around after I'm done here, folks. So you can take a look at what I did.
How far back did you go?
With what?
Back on his ear, I guess, eh?
Yeah, I think it goes right back behind his ear. And then there's a little circle in the middle of it. So you're going to do basically like an O shape. Like that, and actually have, in a lot of the reference I've seen here, it goes down his eye. basically across his face, across his eye.
I think that should be pretty close.
And it does not include his ear.
Well, I did.
Yeah, sure.
It's good enough. We'll fix that.
Fix it in post.
That's right. A little extra paint. Go back and touch
then there, that's what I did. If you can see that, but basically it's like there's a hole in the middle of it. Goes down his eye and around his head like that. If you have your phones up, you can look up Minsc Boo and you'll see the design there.
Fix that ear. And that's the most detailed work I've done in a long time.
Yeah, it's the most detailed thing we've done this weekend for sure. I've been warming you folks up for it.
Let's ask it again. Still stressed?
She's given up, I think.
That'll do. That works too.
I lost all those dry brushes.
All right. It's looking okay.
And my flesh.
We're gonna add a little bit of sepia wash to the hamster to bring out some of that detail.
Good enough. I say we already used that one. I don't need to fill that one again.
What's that?
So we already used the sepia, didn't we?
Yep. It should be still good to go in your
Yeah, oh
palette.
my god, plenty good. I'm super impressed on how long these paints last sitting on a...
Yeah, they're really good, right? That way.
Very impressed.
I'm trying to look for reference on Boo to see what his pattern is.
You can see a little bit on the back.
It's like brown. It's like brown and white, right? It's like typical. Yeah, like white on the underside, brown on top. I'm actually going to go in and rough some of that in with off-white. A little bit of water, so it flows nicely. Do we have another detail brush here at the table? Are you using this one or that one?
No, I'm using this one. That's all yours.
Okay, thanks. I got a stray bristle that's killing me.
It's the last thing you need to start getting into eyes.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I might need a new one for eyes. And then I'm just gonna, it's even hard to see where his face is, but I'm just gonna kind of, without getting it on his skin, just start to rough in a couple little areas on the hamster.
So in these brushes, like I don't know if you're using a zero, they don't take a lot of paint to do detailed work like this. Like just barely load up the tip. You don't need to pull a ton of paint. Like mine's barely got any on it, and it'll flow really cleanly.
That's what I did for the hamster there. It's probably hard to see from that distance, but I just added a little bit of white on the sides, off-white under the chin. But imagine it's like a typical white belly hamster. And then I'm just gonna dot a little bit of rosy flesh on his nose. Little cute little.
You're not taking it easy on these guys.
No, I'm not. Not today. Like that. Really hard to see that.
There.
This is absolutely the smallest and most detailed miniature that we've done at the show this weekend.
Is that why you chose me for this one?
Yeah, maybe.
That's not true. I chose myself.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. How many people are caught up? Okay. How many people are 50% caught up? Okay. Couple steps behind, hands up. just so I know? Okay. Give that a couple seconds.
Hello. Minsc.
Looks great.
Yeah. Learn from the best.
Oh, dude. Come on.
Super impressed on how that brass dragon
Thank you.
turned out.
It's actually quite simple.
We were talking about that actually after we left the white dragon session. Was the bigger the mini, how with technique it's a lot easier.
Oh yeah, big time.
You can pull off a lot more dramatic things with
Oh yeah.
a bigger mini.
Yep. Okay, I'm just going to use a little somber gray here to bring in some highlights on the pants. Basically what I'm doing is I'm taking my detail brush, taking some watered down or some slightly diluted somber gray, and I'm just painting it onto the ridges of the folds in the pants. So you can see it there. And basically all that's doing is it's highlighting those pants a little bit.
You find the high edges that you think the lights are going to hit. That's all you're looking
Yep.
for.
We're basically highlighting, yeah, where the light would hit.
So if you look for like the deepest creases where your inks have hit, usually those high edges are just on the outsides of those.
Yep. I'm also going to add a little bit of a highlight on the toe of the boot.
And actually, this is a really great mini that you guys have got in on because you've, you know, highlighting is something that doesn't always happen on bigger minis and often doesn't because it's just too much work.
Yep.
So, but it's such a quick and simple little thing you can do that just makes so many things pop.
So true. Okay, this is a bit of an advanced step. You don't have to do this at this point.
I don't have to do it?
You don't have to do it.
Sorry.
Yeah, you do. I'm not taking it easy on you. We're gonna mix a little bit of off-white with rosy flesh, and we're gonna highlight the skin. For most of you, you may be happy just with the effect that the wash has done and all of that. But if you want a bit of a challenge, you're just gonna go in and you're gonna again add some paint, slightly lighter than the rosy flesh base is, and highlight kind of the highest edges of where that light would hit his skin. So we're gonna go his shoulder, his biceps, traps, the edges of his fingers. So we're gonna do his thumb here.
Man,
and
you aren't taking it easy on me.
And the tips on his fingers. You can see how his arm looks when you've added a little bit of highlight to that.
Gotta get stable here.
And then his other bicep here. What's that?
I'm actually super impressed with how far you can get on this mini in just a couple hours.
Yeah, the idea is to show that, you know, it doesn't take a long time to get through a mini like this with just some simple techniques, straightforward. Also going to do his knuckles. And basically I'm just using the edge of my brush to just dab them slightly to transfer that paint from my brush to his skin. We're going to do his brow, tip of his nose, chin, and then the top of his head here on the right side, or his left, and then his cheek as well. And you can see how that really brings out that detail.
Take some practice to steady the hand. And but a lot of it's the brushwork too. Like I know these brushes are amazing. You just
Yep.
give it a little tap and they
And again, when you're doing detail work like this, folks, a little tip is to place your other hand, brace it either on your hand or on the miniature. When you do that, it's going to be a lot easier to control your brush strokes rather than trying to kind of float your hand above the miniature like this with your hand shaking or whatever the case may be.
And again, I know I've been holding my mini from the top of the head, so it's getting a little rubbed off. You can just go back with that flesh and some more wash, and it cleans itself right back up.
Too much on the nose here. I'm just going to wipe some of that off.
Really nice. That's a good looking mini.
It really is.
Do you do much with the base with this guy? Just kind of paint it, dry brush it?
Yeah, I'll just paint it and dry brush it. I may not even cover it now. Okay. We're almost there, folks. I'm gonna do a little bit of a highlight on the, right now, for me, the belt is really blended in with the armor. We want that to stick out a bit more. In the reference that I got, his belt is lighter than his armor. So we're gonna take some off-white again, mix that with a little bit of leather brown. And we're gonna pick out that thicker belt. Now that thinner one, we left kind of charred brown, but the thicker one, I'm gonna go ahead and try and paint in between the rivets, a bit of a lighter color, and on top,
oh, I see where you're hitting. I didn't even notice those details were there.
Yeah. I'm actually decided, instead of trying to get between the rivets, I'm just going to base coat the whole thing, and then we can add a watered down wash on that instead. So I'm just going to go ahead. It's going to be easier just to go over the whole thick, wider belt with that lightened leather brown like that. You can see how now it sticks out. I'm also going to do the edge of the leather down here. So this little edge here, we're going to use that lighter leather brown to edge out all his armor.
Make that,
so that it also sticks out.
Make that border pop.
A bit better.
These blend nice.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah, I don't mix a lot of my own paints often, but
no, I don't either.
This is good. Sometimes they just don't, the pigments just don't meld well, or something goes wrong. And
yep.
This is nice.
Should look like that so far. We're going to just wait for that to dry just a touch. And then if you want to take your cloak up just one more level, just add a little bit of your bone white. Is it bone white we're using, or off-white?
I think we're using off-white.
Elfic flesh, actually. Sorry. Have I been saying off-white the whole time?
Yeah.
You guys have Elfic flesh? Yes. It's Elfic flesh. I apologize. They're so close in color, and I'm seeing a little cross-eyed at this point of the show.
This
so,
is what, number 8,
this is
8?
number 8.
Yeah, I would be too.
But we're going to take a little bit of Elfic flesh, and we're going to mix that with a little bit of the Hexed Lichen purple color, just to give one more slightly lighter highlight to the cloak. And again, these are kind of more advanced sort of techniques. You don't have to do this stuff, but now I'm just gonna dry brush it lightly across the back of the cloak, just to bring out one final light highlight, focusing on the areas again that would catch the most light. So not all of it, just the areas on his shoulders and those folds that really stick out the highest if the light were coming from above. You can see how the cloak looks there once I'm done with it. And then shoulders, and then in the front as well.
That's nice, like, that really brings out a lot of nice detail in there.
Yeah. And then because I'm a little nuts, I'm gonna add highlight to his tattoo.
Where are you putting that?
On his brow and anywhere I would have, anywhere you would have highlighted the, anywhere you would have highlighted the skin if it was under that tattoo, I'm doing that with that lighter purple as well.
There we go. You know, I wouldn't even have thought about doing that. That's a really good...
Yeah, it just makes it pop out a bit more.
Really good observation.
How are we doing for keeping up, folks? Are we falling behind? We're doing all right for the most part? Like I said, you guys have some extra time after this as well. We don't start the next one till 4, so the next and final one.
Beholder's a fun paint. It's a really great menu.
Yeah, it'll be great. I'm gonna take some silver and I'm just gonna run the edge of my brush along the sword. It'll just give it a nice sharp edge there. And along the cross guard here, at the bottom of the hilt, just to lighten the sword, just a touch. I'm using the edge of my brush rather than the point of it, so that I'm getting basically the sides of it.
I actually hit that when I did the dry brushing, so you can, like I was hitting the edge of the sword when I had the dry brush out
Yeah.
with the silver too, so there's a couple ways you can pull that.
Yeah. And because it's a bit of a lighter pigmented wash, I'm going to take that flesh wash and I'm going to paint it onto that the lightened leather brown that we used for the belt around his waist and around the lining on his armor, just to add some shadow and some interest in there.
That is looking great, Jason.
Thank you.
So who's thinking about buying more minis after painting so far?
Woo! How many people have been scared away by this miniature?
It is an intense mini.
It is an intense mini. This is not the ideal beginner mini for sure. This is much more. My mom's calling. Everyone say hi, Mom.
Say hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. I'm teaching a class in Philadelphia. Who? I'm good. How are you? Good. I'm teaching painting classes. Yeah, I'm right in the middle. Like, there's 40 people sitting in front of me, and we're just painting a miniature. Yeah.
No big deal.
Didn't you say that? Yeah. It said it's my mom. You always answer a call from your mom. All right. Love you, Mom. I'll talk to you later.
Bye, Mom.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Bye. Bye. So funny.
That's awesome.
She's like, what?
I was gonna say, how embarrassed was
You
she?
answer the phone? I'm going to paint the buckle very carefully on his belt. Again, advanced technique, don't necessarily have to at this point.
You hitting that with silver or gunmetal?
I'm doing that with silver. And then I'm also, crazy enough, gonna paint the little rivets along his belt.
Just getting into that.
Now silver's a bit light for that, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna mention the gunmetal might hit more. It actually might not be bad with like a darker brown again.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, gunmetal's better. Who's coming back for the Beholder? Good. That's a much simpler mini.
It's a great mini. So
it is a really great mini.
That's actually the first mini I followed Jason for the tutorials to have a kind of an idea where to go with it. It looks intimidating, but it's a great mini to paint.
True said. They did a really great job.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun painting that.
Yeah, I bet.
Was not brave enough for the source lighting though. I could not do it.
Just for fun, because we have a bit of time, I'm gonna do the base.
Oh, that's wrong, Greg.
I'm gonna use leather brown for his base. So basically, it's just the ground area around his feet. I'm gonna just paint leather brown in there, and then I'm just gonna throw a sepia wash on top of it, and that should be enough. Maybe a black wash. We'll see.
Bases are less stressful.
Yeah.
Much less. No, I've had a blast painting with you, man.
Thanks, man.
Such a blast. I did not expect it at all, and I'm
Thanks for joining us,
absolutely
dude.
honored to be a part of this.
Of course. And we haven't painted this mini on the show yet, so it'll probably end up online somewhere.
Wow. That's even more of an honor then. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I was trying to think back when I saw that you were painting this mini, and I couldn't think of an episode that you did it.
No, we haven't done this one yet.
Which is part of the reason why I wanted to come paint it with you.
It's awesome.
Well, not like this, but
yeah,
it is what it is now.
Yeah, it sure is. It's been great having you.
No, thank you very much. This has been so much fun. It was only stressful for the first hour and a half.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh yeah, that's where you can relax, is when you've done all that detail and you're like, okay, now I can just base work. This is where I don't have to worry and I can have fun.
That's how the base should look when you've base coated it with that leather brown. And actually, the base in leather brown with a sepia wash will balance out the armor really nice. All right, folks, I'm gonna do the eyes.
Always doing it.
Although this brush is starting to curl on me a bit.
Here, that one's nice.
Do we have any more?
That's got a nice point on it.
That'll work.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want a brush with a nice point on it. You want to get that elfic flesh. Now for eyes, I like to dilute pretty much 50-50 on that, just so you're not trying to jab it in there to get paint on it. Another pro tip when you're doing eyes, so when you're taking paint off your palette, curl your brush in your fingers like this. Rotate it so that you bring the brush to a point, as fine a point as possible. I'm gonna come in on the outside of this. Oh, don't mess this up on the internet. Come in on an angle here.
Watching.
I know. And just gonna dot like that. There. That's one eye.
Halfway there.
Oh man. That's the other eye. And then, I guess charred brown is the closest to a dark color we have here.
Yeah, I think so.
We're gonna take some charred brown here. Again, bring your brush to a point, and I'm just gonna dot that eye.
But you went that far. You didn't even just cut it off at that, the short one.
No. And there we go.
Risky.
Now, typically when I do eyes on these, I'll go really large on the white area, like almost anime eyes, and then the key is to actually work backwards. So do the eye big, do a strip of black down the eye for the pupil, and then close it in with eyelids afterwards. And so you're just gonna paint that flesh color under. I went down a little further than I wanted to, so I'm just going to come back in and close the eye up a bit. But those are Minsc guys. I don't know if you can see them on there. The camera can't focus close enough.
Great job.
To show you, but it works.
That looks great.
Thanks, man. I think we're done.
I think so. I don't know that there's more detail there to hit. Unless you wanted to highlight in on the bag or anything.
No, I think we're good. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to add that sepia wash to the base, just to finish off that base. And then we're done.
Well, it has been a pleasure meeting you this weekend.
Thanks, man. It's been such a pleasure.
It's a shame I got to come out to Philadelphia to do it.
Right?
But we'll change that.
Absolutely, dude. Okay, this is a final look at Minsc Boo, folks. That is a wrap on Minsc Boo. Thank you so much for joining us for the most advanced class of the weekend. If that was your first mini, don't be afraid. There are lots of other bigger minis. And again, you are the boss of your Minsc Boo. So even though we painted it this way, doesn't mean you have to paint it this way. As usual, there are Vallejo paints at the back. If you didn't quite finish and you'd like to, you can grab the paints that we used from the back. Leave your brushes here. Please rinse them, wash them for the Beholder class next. And there may be opportunity to play one more demo with Brandon for our venture boxes. At the show, show exclusive is $30 off your first box, or $100 off a year. You can cancel it any time. Check that out online, or you can take our promo code home for $20 off any other time. And it's 20% off all paint at the booth. So 20% off kits, 20% off bottles. Thank you, Corey, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Ink and Ignorance on
Ink and Ignorance
all
on
the socials?
Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. I'm actually going to start doing some miniature painting on Twitch.
Awesome.
I also do some persistent campaign on a show called Featherfall Tabletop. We're playing The Gods We Know right now. Is a homebrew campaign. We just finished our first arc. I play a character called Desmond Delacroix, a Grave Domain cleric. I'm having a blast playing, and so yeah, that's on Featherfall Tabletop on Twitch, and I'm Ink and Ignorance on most medias. So come and check me out.
Awesome. And then on the socials, you can find us at RealmSmith TV on YouTube and Twitch. It's /RealmSmith. Again, we're debuting our Curse of Strahd campaign January 6th. It's a 3-month season, so you can catch it right from the beginning if you watch along live with us. And then catch Nolzur's Marvelous Tutorials with RealmSmith every Sunday night at 5 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Thank you, everybody.
And you have a wonderful show. Take care, guys.